Welcome, everyone, to the Texas Grassroots Alliance live stream today, the first day of August, and only 90 something days, Neil, until the November 2024 election.
I think it's
Uh,
96, I think.
96 days. All right. I'm Alexander Montalvo with the Gap Network. I'm here with
Neil Aquino at the Houston Democracy Project. Hello, Texas.
And we are here to focus and to talk about the absolute importance that we support Texas grassroots organizers in the work that is essential to be done in these final 96 days. You know, Neil, we've seen headline after headline of various groups, whether it's Latinos for Harris, Latinas for Harris, Black women for Harris, Black men for Harris, which started off with the Black Women for Harris call about 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago.
Right.
I'm losing track of days at this point.
Right.
And then white women for Harris and white men for Harris. And now there's other groups like progressives for Harris and cats and dogs for Harris and things like that.
I saw Catholic call.
Catholic call. So the exciting thing is that there's all this enthusiasm that's happening around people wanting to get involved in these final few months before the election. Biden stepping down, endorsing Kamala, and then so many people endorsing Kamala, from elected officials to nonprofits or to organizations to different people and entities doing this, has created this extreme enthusiasm, which is exciting to see that people are wanting to get engaged and wanting to do something about this election. But one of the things that we see on the grassroots side is that, unfortunately, there's still this huge inequity when it comes to the labor that's going to do the work on the ground in our various communities. And we all know about trickle-down economics doesn't work as a country. It also doesn't work in this ecosystem. It doesn't work where funds trickle down nearly enough to the labor on the ground. And so we want to encourage folks to continue to keep that enthusiasm, to continue to keep doing what they're doing, that's helping them learn about what's needed to vote, to make their plans to vote, to be able to share with their communities to vote. But it's also important, if you are in a position to give, that you give some of those resources to grassroots organizers because they're the ones who are going to be doing a lot of the labor on the ground.
Right. Texas grassroots organizers are people whom you can always count on to show up, to build genuine, long-lasting, informed connection to communities across the state. They are in Texas Grassroots Alliance members, as we speak with the Texas Grassroots Alliance today, are in cities, suburbs, rural areas all across Texas. And when you support Texas grassroots organizers, you're making sure that ballot races up and down the ballot are heard. You're making sure that people who have talent and ability are being compensated, are being recognized, but who might be out of some of the traditional fancy academic networks or good old boy networks or establishment networks. And so it really makes a difference when you expand. And so in addition, it's not a competition, but in addition to the important act of voting, in addition to supporting that big name candidate that you like, you also look at the full picture, and that involves Texas grassroots organizers.
Absolutely. And I'm going to share some thoughts, Neil, and I'm going to put on the screen an opportunity for people to fundraise, to donate to this fundraiser that grassroots organizers are collaborating throughout the state. We have organizers from DFW, from Central Texas, from the Gulf Coast, from East Texas, South Texas, all working together to collaborate to be able to help raise funds for grassroots organizing efforts that are happening on the ground. And so as we celebrate and support this force that is often unseen, yet deeply felt in our communities, it's important that this force is driven to know that this force is driven by dedicated individuals who work tirelessly to bring about change from the ground up. And once again, we're talking about grassroots organizers. These are people who recognize the power of collective action. They understand that real change doesn't just happen in the halls of government or within corporate offices. It begins with everyday citizens coming together, sharing their stories, and standing up for what they believe in. Grassroots organizers are the lifeblood of our democracy. They mobilize communities around common causes, amplify voices that might otherwise go unheard, and demand accountability from those in power. Their work is not glamorous or easy. It requires patience, resilience, and an unwavering commitment to justice. But make no mistake, grassroots organizing is incredibly effective. It has been the driving force behind some of the most significant social movements in history, from civil rights to environmental protection. Yet, despite their crucial role, many grassroots organizers struggle to receive the recognition and resources they deserve. This is where we come in. By supporting these individuals and organizations, we can help ensure that their voices continue to be heard, their efforts are sustained, and their impact amplified. So let's stand together in solidarity with our grassroots organizers. Let's provide them with the tools, training, and funding they need to keep fighting for a better world. Because when we invest in grassroots organizing, we're not just supporting individual causes or campaigns, we're strengthening the very fabric of our democracy. Remember, change doesn't trickle down, just like money doesn't.
Right.
It bubbles up from the groundswell of people who refuse to accept things as they are. That's the essence of grassroots organizing. And that's why it's so important that we support them every step of the way. So we have a link in the chat that folks can click on, or you can scan the QR code that's on the screen. Um, Help us get resources to grassroots organizers in these final days, because the work is intense. Every single day, there is intense work happening and being done by local grassroots organizers.
Right, right. And I'll make two quick points. We can't. I'll use a cliche. You can't put all your eggs in one basket. And so the our traditional systems have brought us within 3 months of the potential return of Donald Trump. Texas is an authoritarian system, so continue to support the groups that you've supported, but also realize that our traditional systems and advocacy networks are not preventing the authoritarian outcomes. And then also with grassroots organizers, if you read accounts, which I've done, of the early history of the environmental movement, the gay rights movement, the women's movement, the civil rights movement, these were lonely fights. These were lonely fights of brave people, and I'm not equating myself to them or to the challenges they faced. But grassroots organizers are out there, sometimes feeling isolated or out the mainstream of advocacy and supporting grassroots organizers. What movement you'll spur that makes a hell of a difference soon enough.
Yeah, absolutely, Neil. And I think that's the important thing, is that it's not just about the labor on the ground that's going to be doing this work of building community spaces, of doing community events, of block walking, and all these different things, of continuing to advocate. Yes, there's an election, but our city councils are still doing things, our
Right.
commissioner courts are still doing
School board.
things, the school year is about to start, school board and everything. So folks are still actively working in all of these spaces, and the opportunity is that they get to connect with people who then they get to talk about this November election, because they are active in the community and doing all these various things. And so the big benefit of supporting grassroots organizers is that they have no limitations on their imagination, their creativity, to engage people, to work with people, and to bring people together. And I think that's so important, that sometimes in campaign outreach, there's a very formulaic,
Yeah.
you know, playbook that is used. Let's send out the mailers. Let's get the ads. Let's get some billboards. Let's get some text messages out and things like that. And all of those things help. But at the end of the day, you need people connecting with people. And a candidate will just not be able to do that to every community And that's why grassroots organizers are so important.
No, and candidates are not organizers. They can be good people, um, but in the end, candidates are not organizers. Campaigns, even for the best politician, is that the campaigns are extractive. They take resources, they take volunteer labor, donations. They're essential. Voting's essential. I'll say it over and over. Um, and there's plenty of fine office holders, but it's a different game. And as enthused as we are about Vice President Harris and the energy that it's brought, for example, the underlying problems of voter suppression, the potential for violence, Republican disbelief or stated disbelief as it serves them in accepting election results, these problems still remain. And there is still, as excited as we are and as hopeful as we are that the vice president will win, I believe she'll win. That doesn't mean it'll be accepted, and that doesn't mean that we won't have to organize on the ground, trust each other, know each other, have each other's backs across communities, and be ready.
Yeah, and there's this whole other element of needing to educate our communities around who's running for sheriff, who's running for commissioner's court, who's running for constable, who's running for the House legislature, the Texas House legislature, right? Um, and and all of these different roles very well can make a bigger impact on your life than the president. And so grassroots organizers connecting with folks, um, is so important to be able to talk about the importance of down ballot voting, of being able to make sure that people are informed on the positions of these candidates and what this level of government does, because a lot of times people don't see what this level of government is doing.
Yeah, I agree.
And I want to highlight a comment we got from the audience. Lydia Ozuna is with us, watching live, and says volunteer grassroots organizers donate generously of the time and talent. Your donation will honor their hard work and help them defray some of the cost. And yeah, if you're a grassroots organizer, uh, there's a pretty good chance that you are having some kind of hurdle when it comes to transportation. Not that you don't have a car, some don't have cars who are grassroots organizers, but those that do are wearing them out so fast because they're traveling across their communities, um, that we often hear from grassroots organizers, needing that new car, needing that new um, form of transportation, or just needing the gas money to be able to travel from place to place.
Yeah, yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
What kind of expenses do you see happening as a grassroots organizer, Neil?
Yeah, there's a ton of them. Time, first of all, time, time of your life is a commitment. A time that would be paid for in different settings, even though you're doing equal or better work. I'm part of a group that protests outside of Senator Cornyn's office for 390 weeks. And those vote, we make a big difference. People see others like themselves willing to stand up for democracy. We've invested incredible time. Then significant gas money. We have folks with two of our regulars have at least an 80-minute round trip commute to do it. Poster board, ink, printer ink, electricity in your home for these resources. It all wear and tear on your computer. You take mileage on your car. If you were working for a company, you'd be getting the IRS mileage rate. And wear and tear on everything. So everything you're doing is an expense. It really is. And I just want to come back to time, because you have people willing to commit hours of their lives for the betterment of others.
Yeah, and this really goes to the question that Lydia just asked. Can you talk about some of the expenses incurred by volunteers? It's all of those things, Neil. It's the cost of streaming this live to all of y'all, right? It's the cost of having a Zoom room that can hold enough community members to be able to come together digitally, to be able to join in community and work towards a common goal and a common purpose. whether that's environmental policy changes at the city council level, or that's addressing the Tarrant County jail deaths that's happening in our community, or it's community members coming together to help support one of those families to pay for funeral costs, right? There's a number of ways that grassroots organizers um, pay to help move the work forward, and are always looking for those opportunities to be able to invest in our community and to be able to invest in our work. And I think that's the big call for folks to understand, is that, you know, being a good citizen and an informed citizen, and voting and even participating in some volunteerism is fantastic. But what grassroots organizers do is operating at very different levels, right? It's about the network, the relationships. It's about building the currency of trust. It's about being informed on what's happening in the community, and hearing having the immense amount of communication that happens, the text messages, the calls, the social media interactions, the in-person interactions, to help figure out how can we work collectively to solve the thing that is impacting so many people.
Yeah.
Um, and then we got a comment from Donna Wilson, Neil, that says, "We need your support and donations." Donna Wilson is an amazing grassroots organizer out of Dallas, Texas. Just think about all the money that is donated to the candidates. 1% of what they are getting will go a long way. Community forum, engagements. We are the ones informing the community.
Yeah.
And I think Donna's spot on there, right?
Yeah. That's, I mean, that is exactly right, folks. We have, you and I have talked about this, Alex, at length, but within activist communities, um, there's a lot of CASTE class and caste, and there are activists. They're good people. They're doing, they're trying. They're doing their best, but who are in nonprofits or groups that are aligned with politicians, and they're there for a few years and they move on. And there is a looking down on people. There's also ageism in these communities too, which I want to point out. And um, Donna's going to be there consistently for everyone, informing communities, and that's work that has to be recognized. And it's great to have this empowering network, that ever expanding Texas Grassroots Alliance network, where we're showing the force of grassroots organizers, and the great number of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also, when you look at what the work that Donna does and so many other grassroots organizers, we're also talking to community members that a lot of times campaigns won't talk to. Campaigns
Right.
have a particular view of, they want to turn out the active voters.
Right.
And in some case, they look at the active voter pool and they say, okay, the people on my side, let's say the Democrats are on my side, equal this many votes. If
Yep.
I want to win, I need to convince these other active voters that may vote more Republican more of the time. And what we're saying as grassroots organizers is, like, there's this even larger pool of folks who aren't voting, who either need to be registered, or there's millions that are registered that just aren't voting, that if we
Right.
talk to them, they'll align with the values that are focused on a more safe, just, equitable, and inclusive community. But a lot of times campaigns won't allocate resources to those, what they call non-active voters, which usually are majority diverse communities,
Right.
because there's a number of hurdles to be active voting, right? And so I think that's a big part of what Donna and others do, is connect with community that are being missed in terms of the way they're organizing.
And it's an aside, but a lot of those voters have been registered by nonprofits who soak up the money and then don't follow up. So Donna just made the comment, we need to find out why they're not voting.
Yep.
And so one reason is, and Donna would have insight beyond mine, and then also locally specific insight, which is what grassroots organizers bring. One reason that folks don't vote is that we pump a lot of money into these infrastructures. We're going to register this group of people, this age group of people, this demographic. Maybe even we do, and then we don't follow up. We don't follow up, and you wonder to yourself, okay, it's great you're registering, but you wonder all that money's flowing through those ecosystems, and why? And so sometimes, by accident, of course, these groups can be like just about getting the money in some ways, or we got to keep that money flowing. I'm not saying it's dishonest, but you know how in life you get into traps, you get into habits, and um, and that's and so one reason folks don't vote is that all the registration's been going on, but not the follow up, and the follow up is harder. The follow up is harder. Most formerly incarcerated people don't know that they can vote, and Donna says, and you know that's because, and that's a failing of me as an organizer, because I have made a lot of calls to prospective voters or canvassing, and I have had people say to me, no, I've got a record, I can't vote. And I actually have failed in that. I didn't have the information, even after it happened 5, 6, 7 times. I didn't have the information to say, no, hey, you can vote. And so I'm glad that Donna has brought up that point, and that's what different voices and perspectives do.
Yeah, once folks are off papers, even if they're formally incarcerated, they can vote, and I think that's a huge part of the education that needs to be had. But it also needs to have the intentionality of talking to those folks.
Yeah.
And this is what Donna talks about. It's that time to educate community. Sometimes one person at a time, sometimes 10 people at a time, but it's the time to be able to do that. And this is all the type of work that folks are doing on the ground. Lydia asked a question here. Can you tell some of the reasons you've heard about why people volunteer their time and talent?
Yeah, I think people do it for a lot of reasons. They do so because it's important to them. They do so because, and I focus on this a lot, because Donna, Lydia, you, and the other grassroots organizers, with the very many on our calls, they have talent, they have abilities, and normal systems won't recognize them. You didn't go to the right school. You haven't made the right connections. You're pursuing an interest that doesn't generate donors or money. You're pursuing a new interest that's ahead of the curve. You're doing something creative. Another reason that people volunteer their time and talent is that they're afraid. So Lydia made the point earlier, stamps for mailing postcards as an expense. And over, I will see Democratic clubs, and we're speaking to volunteers. We're speaking to just even the rank and file volunteer who does conventional political work and who isn't paid. People are afraid their granddaughter's going to be prosecuted for a miscarriage, so they rustle up $100 for stamps, and they print the postcard on their own dime for a candidate who might have 20 million bucks in the bank or $1 million, right? And it pisses me off. So people do it because they have the talent. Donna says it's my passion, and found out it was her mother's as well. And so these forums give people the opportunity to express themselves, express multi-generational aspiration, and make use of their own talent. And I think that we have to be confident enough to say, look, we've got ability, help us out. And let us use that just as an artist or a creative person might be.
Absolutely. And here's the link. Once again, it's going to be on our Facebook and YouTube channels. You can also scan the QR code if you're watching on your TV and you got your phone out and you want to just scan it. But Lydia asked a good question in terms of how will the donations raised by the Alliance be distributed amongst grassroots organizers? And this is a great question. There's two main pools of money that are going to be captured, that we're going to be distributing through two different pools. The first one is going to be to help with some of these collaborations that are happening throughout Texas. And so the Texas Grassroots Alliance is working on a number of collaborations. This fundraising collaboration is just another example of organizers from across the state coming together to work on collective efforts. But we have an annual summit that we help organize and have organizers come together to help develop skills, to talk about strategies, to help build relationships and look for other collaborative opportunities. We do a lot of work as an alliance with the Poor People's Campaign, and the Texas Poor People's Campaign is the state chapter that a lot of organizers work within to help connect with poor and low income voters and community members around the issues, and the amazing 17-point platform that they have, and the Poor People's Budget that shows that we do have the means to eradicate poverty in our country. We just choose not to through policy and decision making. And then we do other collaborations like this, where we do media projects, media collaborations, where we help produce content to highlight work that grassroots organizers are doing throughout the state. There's grassroots journalism efforts that have been supported, that we help do some collaborative work around messaging and helping inform people in those spaces, and so many other types of collaborations that are happening throughout the state. So a portion of the funds are going to go to those collaborations to help fund those efforts. That will also include phone banking, text banking, block walking in these final months before the election. The other part is going to go to organizing stipends. And these are going to be opportunities for grassroots organizers to get a stipend in these final months to help support them in their work, and to give them some compensation for that labor that Neil's talking about, for the skills they bring to the table, and for the work that they are leading and doing within their communities. And so giving resources directly to organizers is another part of what these donations will be used for. And so this will be a huge impact for this election, this all important election, for us to be able to reach this goal. And right now the TGA is working on a goal of $100,000 that we're raising to help fund these collaborations throughout the state, as well as to fund organizing stipends to folks throughout Texas who are doing grassroots organizing in their community.
Right, right. And that money is so important. And the stipend, we do accept monthly donations. Lydia asked, we do accept monthly donations, and
absolutely, you can become a recurring donor. The importance of having recurring donors is that it allows planning to be a little bit more effective, because we know there is a pool of funds that we can anticipate month to month. And so that's hugely important, as every day things are changing so fast and so quickly when it comes to organizing for this election. Knowing that we have monthly donors in these final few months is so important. And also, as soon as this election is over, Neil, in Texas, we don't really have a huge break. Folks may take a little break for some family time at the end of the year, but come January, the Texas legislative session starts, and that's 140 days of nonstop organizing and advocacy and activism that needs to take place,
right.
to try to do something good for Texans from
Yeah,
our
yeah,
legislature. And
yeah. It's
a multi-billion-dollar budget's passed, $250 billion budget, right?
it's 140 days of cruelty, um, and again, I'm just going to continue to say that the traditional groups, we know the routine. That there's going to be the buses to the Capitol. There's going to be the email campaigns. There's going to be okay, great. I'm not telling you I have a magic solution, but it hasn't stopped. It hasn't stopped the cruelty. It hasn't stopped the cruelty. There are successes. The opposition to the vouchers has so far been a success, and we hope. But I would just say that the way we are doing things, business as usual, Texas is damn near, if not already, an authoritarian state. Here in Harris County, the state has the ability to overturn our election. To give you an example of the grassroots organize, as I asked for money on behalf of others, there was an ordinance yesterday discussed in Houston City Council that would make it impossible to protest at the homes of elected officials. You can't, under the ordinance, if passed in 2 weeks, you won't even be able to stand outside of the home of a council member with a blank sheet of paper if it's interpreted as a protest. It says you don't even have to have a sign, and it could just be you alone. And so within 24 hours of that, beyond my social media presence, I was on the Egberto Willies Politics Done Right program this morning, which is on KPFT FM. Egberto Willies Politics Done Right is a TGA member and someone himself who needs support. And we spoke for about 40 minutes about this ordinance on politics done right. And then I've been in communication with the president of the Houston LGBTQIA Political Caucus, of which I'm an active member, and I participate, so I earn my voice within the group. And he told me, I asked to speak before the membership Wednesday meeting next Wednesday to get the group to oppose, the membership to oppose by a motion the ordinance. So that's what I have the capacity to do as a grassroots ordinance. And then I'll be writing about it on my blog and writing about Houston Democracy Project and sending a letter to every member of city council about it. I have the capacity to do that. It's effective. It merits money. It merits support. It uses the traditional processes. And I also have the willingness to confront Republicans and Democrats, because Democrats, it's proposed by a Democratic mayor, Mayor Whitmire, and it will require Democratic votes to pass in the majority Democratic council. Mm-hmm. And I have that autonomy because I have autonomy. And one way I maintain autonomy is if I have money, so I can continue to do this. And so that's an example of quick reaction on a super important issue. We cannot be giving away, even if you approve or disapprove of protesting at homes, we cannot be giving our rights away. And the ordinance is in part written by the Houston Police Department. We can't have police departments whose unions support election deniers sitting there and defining our First Amendment rights. So there's an example of action that grassroots organizers can take and why they merit support.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think this is where we're going to continue to help try to inform people the opportunity to help support grassroots organizers. It's those local issues that Neil's talking about that are so important. It's the grassroots organizing that Donna and Lydia are doing, both in, Donna's in Dallas, Texas, Lydia's in Fort Bend County and Katy, Texas. And so we want to continue to inform everyone so that they understand the absolute importance to donate and to support grassroots organizers, as folks are eager to try to have an election that's going to make an impact for the people, that's going to be a positive impact, that's going to allow us to be able to move forward towards, having a better and brighter future. And we have to be able to do that while we support grassroots organizers, because their work is so essential on the ground.
And to make it clear, we've referenced the Dallas Metro, Harris, the Harris suburbs, and we also have active members in Texarkana, Valley, rural, all across the state.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Neil, thanks so much for the time today. Glad we got folks interacting with us in the comments.
Yeah, the audience
Donna, Lydia, thanks for all the work you're doing. Let's keep spreading the word. Let's keep supporting grassroots organizers. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.